Welcome to Hear From Where, a podcast about the journeys that shape us. I'm your host, Chef Andrew Garrett, and each week I'll sit down with incredible individuals who've carved their own paths in health, nutrition, entrepreneurship, sports, and beyond. This is where we dive deep into the stories of determination, resilience, and passion, the moments that brought them here, from where they started. Whether you're looking for inspiration, a spark to start your own journey, or just love hearing amazing stories, then you're in the right place. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's explore what it really takes to follow your dreams. Hello, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Hear From Where. I'm your host, Chef Andrew Garrett. Today, I am joined by a good friend of mine, Aaron Ross. Aaron is a variety show creator, performer, comedian, actor, friend, son, dog dad.
Yeah, that's right.
The list is infinitum with this young man. Aaron, I am so glad that you are here today. I'm really excited to get into your story and kind of break down what it's been like for you to really push your own boundaries and chasing your dream and really, finding your groove and continuing to work towards, not only self-betterment, but career betterment. For those of you that don't know, Aaron and I have known each other for almost 15 years. Which is crazy that we're now at that age to look back and say, wow, I've known Aaron for 15 years. But if I remember correctly, it is 15 years. I think 2010 was the first time I appeared live on the Ed Foreman show with you.
Wow. Yeah, that's I'll take the audience through the first couple moments of our relationship. I was hosting a late night talk show at Dante's in downtown Portland. I had every Tuesday night where we do this comedy show, like you said, variety, where we're interviewing guests and we have musical performers on and comedians and often, because it's Dante's, wild, sexy circus performers, pole acrobats, contortionists, fire eaters, which even to this day, I still can't believe that I've eaten fire on 6 separate occasions. And we'd had a chef on. I always looked at like the old school talk shows, the Johnny Carsons and Letterman and Dick Cavett and stuff like that, where they'd have these variety of guests that would include. I always liked when the chefs would come on, right? You get a chef on, hygiene, like especially as a talk show host, the chef comes on and you're like, this is 10 minutes where I can play, right? You don't need a script. You don't have to really know questions. You present stuff. We goof around. There's humor within that moment, and also like they feed the audience, so like. Even if my show sucked up to the chef, there's free food, right? And I think at the time the cover charge was like $3. So like if you got a taco or like a slice of ribeye or whatever it was going to be, like we clearly made up for it, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So in some ways it was like self-preservation to have a chef on. And we'd had Gregory Gourdet, who had been on one of the reality shows, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this at breakfast this morning, like what was the genesis? And so I think we'd had Gregory on, he'd been this personality, he'd been on TV. So that was exciting to get him on. We tried to get him on a second time and his schedule just got really busy. And as has happened over the course of us doing almost 1,000 episodes of the talk show that I did, you get these, hey, I got a buddy who's great, like I can't do it today, but can you? Yeah. And that was, he introduced me to you. And then you became our de facto chef for literally a decade, over a decade.
It was
over a decade. Which traveled from the show being, as you mentioned, the Ed Foreman show, Ed, Not My Name. I played a character in the first 6 years of the show, who was like a polyester clad former, inspirational speaker turned talk show host, and his objective was to inspire, educate, and entertain. He's the author of the best-selling book "I'll Make You Better Because I'm Better Than You," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And and that was so fun to get to work in that space. And I transitioned the show then to Who's the Ross, where I would host it as myself, kind of knocking off the literal mask, kind of needing to move forward from that space where I was basically morphing into the booze hound I was playing, which was fun for a lot of the time. But it's always great. It was always great, our relationship, and which lasted all the way through the pandemic, where and I'm sure we can fill in all the gaps to this as we chat, but where you did a Zoom cooking lesson, because that's how
with
the
your
pandemic stuff.
mom.
Do you remember that? You did.
Yes.
I think you did 3 of them, where you were generous enough to assemble all the ingredients, like hundreds of dollars of ingredients, which was wild, because what it was Chef would. Sorry, Chef, as I'm like totally taking over. Granted, as the talk show host, I'm sure no one's surprised.
It is. This is why you're here.
This is why I'm here. Where you had assembled all these ingredients, left them at your restaurant, the commissary kitchen you were sharing, and I would pick it up. Right? I think I saw you one of the times, because the whole jam. Like at first, it was like, I can't see you, have to drop it off, and then kind of farther into the pandemic, I could say hello and whatnot and all that jazz. And you gave us these goods, and then you would get on Zoom with me and my mother and teach us how to cook with these ingredients. But unlike when we had the talk show live, where it's like, hey, for all the audience that's out there, for maybe 60, 70 people you get to eat, it was just my mom and I had food for a couple of weeks. It was very generous of you. It was so fun too, to do it in the way that we did it, because here we are, with the frying pan, the pots, and all the ingredients, and you're just telling, no, go over there and get this, get that, and we were cooking it in real. It was so fun to do, and then edit down later. So thanks for that. I think that's the last time we truly collaborated, but that encompasses over a decade.
Yeah, and that's crazy. It's funny to me is, on Tuesdays was Dante's, and it happens to be Tuesday today, and I had not even put those together. So I think that we are destined for Tuesdays.
Tuesdays is well, that's a magical play. Tuesday is the least assuming day of the week. That's why I always love performing on it.
Yeah, it sneaks up in there. It's not Sunday. It's not Saturday. It's not going back to work Monday.
Right, yeah. It's not the start of the week. It's not the part you dread. It's not the great part of the weekend. It's not the middle where you're like, oh, I can see the weekend. All those days where they kind of are more significant. Tuesday's the least assuming. But when you give someone something special on a Tuesday, I think it becomes then the most significant, because you had no expectations. That's another marketing plan. Is like, here's a comedy show where you can have no expectations. So when we succeeded, we kind of succeeded really well, because people were like, I had $3 on a Tuesday. I just thought, I don't know. There was a roof over my head when I had a whiskey, and that guy was actually pretty good. So cheers to Tuesdays.
Absolutely. I love it. Yes, absolutely. So with that and all the introduction and kind of getting there, why did this happen? How did you decide that this was the path that you were going to walk down? What was did you do kind of drama in high school? Did you have acting parts? Did you have just the big character that you are? Like, where was it that started the journey?
Oh man, I wish I had. I didn't act in high school. I didn't do any performance until college. I was just the typical class clown. I was looking in those spaces to get attention. We won't go into all the psychological, unless you desperately want to, as far as like why that happens. But yeah, man, I just loved getting a laugh in class, and with friends, and it was kind of like my life's goal. I played hoops, to a moderate level, and then when that stopped, partway through high school, because I just wasn't good enough to get on varsity, I didn't really have a direction of what was going to happen. So I basically underachieved in school. Sports was great. Then I didn't have it. So then it was like a couple years of what defines me? And the thing I looked for kind of always was, can I just connect with people? Right? Whether it's in class or after school or just hanging out. And can I have fun? I know it sounds really simple, but it's kind of utopian. I kind of search for it to this day of can we just exist together and just go and fun? And I know none of that's professional. None of that's an origin story of I really learned, to put my heart on my sleeve as an actor, or I figured the technique of stand up and then the timing. But I did stumble into, I think it was started in a public speaking course freshman year of college, where obviously we get speeches in high school, but they're whatever. They're not a lot of things. Like when you're in a class for 10 weeks and every week you have to give a different speech, to me it felt performance laden. And I could feel at 18, 19 like, oh, I'm good at this. Even when I failed, and that would happen because like you go into a public speaking class, you're like, I'm gonna really get the like sweet jokes in this. I got this bit, and they would fail. But even in failure, it felt like I had something. Like the fact that I was willing to fail and go all the way with a bit within the speech felt significant. And then improv classes a couple of years later, specifically what would be called a long form improv class, really shaped my entire life and career. So, you got the improv that everyone has seen on TV with like Whose Line Is It Anyways? And it's about just being quick and hitting a joke and doing a bit. And I had got lucky enough at Portland State University that they had offered what was called long form improv, which I didn't have a theater background, but it was like theater acting and making it up, meaning like, can you make up a character and work opposite someone else's character off just a suggestion? And the goal was always, it was the comedy, truth and comedy sort of rule, right? So our instructor was always like, he was trying to almost like slap it was like a nun with the ruler. But if you were making an intentional joke, and the idea was don't make the intentional joke, be this person. The funny will exist from being this person. And I found a real knack in living inside someone and making stuff up. And to which my career next came the Ed Foreman Show, where for years I played a talk show host, which I almost morphed into this 70s booze hound self-serving motivational speaker. And then, up to this past year, I shot a film in character as the father of the dad joke, and it was all shot in public. So these were these spaces where I felt like, yeah, I just want absolute freedom to make stuff up, but keep the truth of the person, right? Find the actual reality, even as absurd as they are. And that to me is that's the trajectory. That's the thing that fascinates me the most.
Oh, that's amazing. To hear the way you speak to it and the way that it kind of became your origin story of sorts. I love the fact that your immediate feeling to that was connecting with people. And that's something that in today's this is just me projecting my own, nonsense bias against the world of Hollywood and films. Is that something that we lack today? Is we don't have that. I want to connect with people. I want to touch someone's memory. I want to touch their soul. I want them to feel what I feel. I can see what they're feeling. And to expand on that without like going to Juilliard or being in this classical acting realm, but finding yourself in this ability to, as you said, morph into a character that brings out in improv, when you're working with a partner, you're bringing out the best in that other person. And I think that's a huge character asset that you have, is you bring up the best of the people around you, and it's one of the things I really loved about performing on the show with you, is that I knew that no matter what I did, you were going to laugh, you were going to carry this burden on your shoulder, and it was going to be a good time. And by you acting that way and carrying yourself in such a manner, it allowed me to relax and be good at what I do, and that's cook. And that's so cool.
That's nice to say. I mean, when I think about it, I think about that in telling you about the desperate desire to just like connect with people and have fun. And it was just even with your peer group, like after school. When someone says class clown, we tend to think about like me. It's really self-serving, right? It's like me, I need the attention. And that's inherent in it. But I always felt that it was about like being together with to me, it was, I've always looked at like, yes, I may be out front, but it's about us as a team. Even if I'm just being a goof off, like even if I'm just like trying to get wise at the teacher, it's sort of like, hey, didn't we get that laugh together? Like, aren't we having a good time? And even with friends, I've always felt very protective, even if I was being outlandish. There's like, we're going together. We're going on this adventure. We're doing this stupid thing. And yeah, I mean, even in the talk show, look, we always had the incredible house band. We would have character actors on the show, writers, stagehands, the bar staff at Dante's, who we would incorporate in a pretty wild way, where we had our guitar tender, who I'm sure you did shows with, where he would literally was this guy who had been in like butt rock bands named Sunshine, and he would behind the bar, he'd have his wireless guitar and he would shred. We would go, it's our guitar tender. He would literally mix a drink with one hand while shredding with the other. It was the stuff that dreams are made of, but it was a team. Team was always important to me, and that's nice of you to say. I mean, I wouldn't say that was initial, especially with Ed Foreman. There was a lot of like I was 24 when I started doing that. So 24-year-old, like I just wanted to get laughs, you know, and there was the character himself was a lot of like taking the piss out of people, but not in a mean way. Not ever. It was never mean. It was just like, it was some ribbing and I learned over the years how to keep supporting just off reps. I mean, that's just reps in a talk show, how to support your guests more and more and more. And you do have to support the chef because you're going to cook and cook and cook. And there's part of me that needs you to move, right? I got to like move it along, even though we weren't on a true blue TV schedule, right? You kind of had to stick in a 10 to 12 minute range. That's just attention span stuff. And I'm sure there were times we did 20 minutes. Like we did and there'd be tangents and all this stuff. But yeah, I think you look like, can you get a laugh in here, which supports the chef? Then he moves to the next ingredient or the next item. And that's a conversational thing. I'm not doing it here as I'm sort of just pouring out all of my history, but there is that give take with it where your humor in a conversation like that is really to support it and then move it forward, right? You're just trying to keep the audience with us until they get free tacos and it was gone. Over the value of what they paid at the door, and they're going to come back next time. That's I always say the safety net of free food at a talk show.
No, that's brilliant. I never would have put those two together. And as soon as you said it, it's like, oh, that makes way more sense. Watching people line up at the front of the stage because they knew, and you could kind of watch it as the bit was getting longer.
And as much as I could joke about it, that's true. It was like, as the bit's getting longer, I'm like, get the food in their mouths. Get the food in their mouths, right? Without saying that.
Right.
I will say, you say bringing them to the stage. As you know, our show is always highly interactive. It invariably had to be. I was nobody. Like most people didn't know what they were getting into, as they were probably just downtown as either a tourist or they're just out for whatever reason they're getting drunk on a Tuesday night. But it's again that taking everyone with thing. That's always been a big thing to me. Is like when you can take someone to the show, you can bring them either on stage or to them or walk to them, give them the taco. Like if you even just us talking about making food and giving it to an audience member, I would think that if you were in some live venue for a couple bucks, you're like, that's again on a Tuesday, like that's a better night than I expected to have. Like, how cool is that? And we always tried to do that with like interactive bits and prizes and our guests and weird stunts we would do, as all the talk shows have done. But when you're trying to do it in a space where you're a nobody, they don't know who you are. Yeah, we were really trying to say, like, we're all in this together. You're as a part of the show as I am as the host. And on the best nights, we really did that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing better than watching people just get really excited to get on stage and participate in some of the wild
wild
antics.
Games, often antics, drinking games, which was always got wild is like, as both you and I don't drink, and I'm now at, I don't know, over a decade. And so half my existence doing that show, I wasn't drinking anymore, but drinking, we're still in a bar. And the wild drinking game just sort of hit for our demo. You're getting enough 20-somethings in there. And yeah, I mean, we would have off there were catwalks middle of the audience at Dante's.
Gosh,
the catwalks are for go-go dancers for their Sunday cabaret. But we would often have zip lines that were sending cans of beers down. Or
the zip line at the Star Theater that time.
The zip line at the Star Theater is incredible. The sister space to Dante's, which is a theater where literally that's got to be 100 feet to stage, if not longer.
Oh yeah.
And then we're talking, for those listening, like a true theater that could hold 500 people, that has a beautiful balcony. It's built over like 100 years ago, and we would tie fishing line to the stripper pole on stage, because all these venues could lock off a pole. And while there may not be dancers on it for that moment, the key was, did we have a stationary thing that we could have a taut fishing line? Yeah, and we would send PBRs. We would send beers down it. You take a paper clip around the little tab, and you send that down. And I always thought, man, who I did that with? The coolest person. I mean, the two coolest people I did that with: Danger Aaron from Jackass, simply because he headbutted it. Well, in fact, actually, the two best people headbutted it. They went all in. And Peter Stormare, who was the two bad guys in Fargo.
Oh,
he was the blonde hair, slick back. He's in Minority Report. He's a legend. I've interviewed him twice. We literally ran into him in Portland at the Kingston Bar once. But in LA, he did my show, and we did the zip line, and he headbutted it, and it was like a Colt 45, and a can, not bottle. And yeah, that was awesome. I mean, those moments are bizarre and wonderful. We were always trying. I mean, look, if you grew up watching David Letterman, you just wanted to do it your own way.
Yeah.
And we're in bars, so a lot of the stunts would get to alcohol.
Oh, it's such a brilliant idea, and truly, again, the way you brought people together in those days were amazing. From the slum of downtown Portland,
Yeah.
The beauty of Dante's, Dante's to making a decision that you're going to push down to LA. And LA, in my mind, and I don't know if this is reality, but from my perspective, LA is like, this is the place. Like, if you want to be in entertainment, you go here because this is where you want to become the thing. Is that how you felt looking at it? Like, what was the basis around up and going?
I mean, LA has been that and is that, even though it's the sort of hardest times for Hollywood in the sense of things getting made and people having jobs. It is, and largely what I expected as far as what like you said, the place, the mecca of entertainment. You feel it every day you step out of the house. Even in traffic, you get the sense of it, and whether that's because there's a billboard for a film that wants to be considered for an Oscar, or there's something bizarrely cinematic about the 7 lanes you're sitting in. You know what I mean? Like, the chaos of it almost feels like Hollywood, even though it's the worst thing ever. But the genesis of it was always in my head. I mean, so I've moved to LA 3 times, but I have been living here now for almost 5 years consistently. In my most successful LA era, but my first was in 2012, shortly after we met. I moved here for 8 months. I had done Ed Foreman for 4 years. That character was, really built out of a time of Borat, right? Sacha Baron Cohen's work. Colbert doing the Colbert Report and character. Jiminy Glick. These sort of characters, at the end of the 90s and the 2000s were, to me, like the most freshest comedy. Again, the idea of working off real people, but being in this character. So I had this guy. We'd seen enough success. We'd done whatever amount of shows we'd done at Dante's, whatever few hundred. And I was like, yeah, I got to do it. And so I went, and I lived in a beach town for, 8 months. It's called Hermosa Beach. I don't know if it would mean anything to listeners. It's nice. It's not for me, in the sense that I'm too pale for the beach alone, and even the vibe of it didn't connect, right? As a Portlander, like, LA beach town doesn't really fit your aesthetic. That's why I'm in Silver Lake now, which is for sure the closest to Portland, as everyone was telling me for like ever before moving here. And then I moved here, and I was like, yeah, if you're in LA, more or less this side of town feels like closest to Portland. But I came out, and look, on a map, I don't know, it's 8 miles, 6 miles. I don't know what it is to get up into Hollywood from Hermosa. But in drive time, it was like an hour, 90 minutes. And it just, I remember trying to go and do gigs at the Improv, and it would just take forever. And it just sucked my soul. And I didn't know what to do. I think I worked at a pizza place for 8 days until they fired me for giving out free beers to my best friend. who worked at Boeing, so I don't know why I had to give him free beers. That's the hypocrisy of like, I have nothing, but I love you, bud. You know, we're old school. Here's a free beer. Now I don't have a job while you still make six figures because I gave away a $3 beer because it's 2012. That's what beers cost then. So, anyways, that trip that one didn't work. I wasn't trying to move back, but I had a few festival gigs, you know, and then I ended up performing at you did the show down there at the Crystal Ballroom or Crystal Hotel, right?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
For listeners who don't know, there's like this Northwest brewing company called McMinimans. They own these. They like refurbish buildings to make hotels, concert venues, and next to their best concert venue, the Crystal Ballroom, they made the Crystal Hotel, and in their basement they have this really cool lounge. I mean, it was like Dante's, but because the ceilings were lower and the stage was smaller, like even though we might put the same amount of people in for our show, it was just like easier to access them because the room was smaller. And they offered up this sort of like you could get a couple grand and stay at their hotel for a week, which I was at this point, you know, I didn't have a home because I just come back from LA and I could crash with my mom at the time, but I had a week at this hotel. Anyways, long story of it is I did 7 different talk shows for 7 days in this residency. And they liked it enough to say, hey, you know, we normally have music in this residency from 7 to 10, but we've never had anything from like 10 to midnight. Do you want to take that slot? And they offered me Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Three nights a week as a comedian performing is like, it's making a living. Like, and I've been making a living at Dante's. Like, I legit paid my rent and ate, you know, and all that stuff. I mean, it was Portland living. So it was at the time was like, you know what I mean? You could get by on like drink tickets and $100 or something, but I made significantly more than that at the time. It was great. And if you're going to do 3 nights, like, man, all of a sudden there was like a legit living. So I took it, and did that for a year and then pivoted back into Dante's where I then dropped the character. Like the character over 3 nights a week was what burnt me out. And I was just like drinking a ton. Like I was playing a guy who was drinking. At first I used to do the old iced tea and then it was whiskey and it was a couple, but then now it was like 3 nights a week and you started with 2 and you drank a couple in it and you were at a bar when you were done and you went on all the way through until 3 and then you started over again. And there were other gigs coming up too. You do the cabaret at Sinferno or like Kit Kat Club. You were hosting Wednesdays and like all of a sudden you're performing 5 nights a week as a booze hound and drinking like him. And you're like, oh my God, this is so I at least had the ability to stop, which is I know you say there's no luck, but that does feel like luck. You know, that was like, of all the luck things, it was like, thank God I could do that. And so how to connect in back to LA, you know, I then got my chops doing the show without the booze, without the character for, I don't know, 3-4 years. And then I moved back down here.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was it like? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but unmasking that character and then going into it as, you know what, this is the authentic me. Was that
that's a great question. I had been dropping him so much as the last year happened because we're doing it 3 nights a week. So the ability to be super big and do these bits that we were doing with this character, I just think, you know what it came down to? It was I would do the character in a monologue to open every night and it'd be really strong. It'd be full him, full voice, full this guy in a suit with his bit. I should have said this earlier, but think of an American Austin Powers, right? Just a guy not suited for his time. And a lot of that's what makes the humor. Once we got into then the next thing after the monologue would be a bit with audience members. Still pretty strong. You're typically bringing them up. You're trying to do a motivational bit off of them that gets shine to your character and they get a prize at the end sort of thing. That was the routine of that. Then when the interviews came, and there were 2 interviews a night, I would just come into more me because at that point you've done the show, you know, 400 times, 500 times, and you're just like, it's more your skill. It's less needing the bit. You just kind of got it now. You kind of know how to do this, and you kind of would rather make the guests more comfortable. You're getting bigger guests, right? We were getting, at first it was like, man, and this is entirely, what do we always say? We'd always say like, you're just trying to get like local notables, nut jobs, weirdos. And we literally would. I mean, we would get the most bizarre, and sometimes those were fun. I mean, they were a lot of fun, but they just, right, there wasn't there. It just was what you were a Tuesday talk show in downtown Portland. When the bigger guest came, and I remember we did a month of Mayor May, where we had a different mayor on every show. So we had 16 shows. We had a different local mayor, from Portland's mayor through some big suburbs to Willamina, that I think had, I don't know, maybe they had 1,000 people, and they had like the boy wonder. I think he was like 23-year-old mayor, 22 at the time. Corey Adams, who became a friend of mine, rad skateboarder and kid mayor, and and so I think in that was like that was the transition, and then and it just felt awesome taking the mask off, and I still would do a character in the middle of most shows for like 10 minutes. There'd be this mid-show bit where I could exercise this thing. And the character I mentioned earlier was like the father of the dad joke, came from one of those sessions too. It's cool to see something 10 years later where you actually made a film with that person, and how much they grew from the inception of like, let's just throw this bit in here, where this guy sits in like a hot tub, and is trying to find a friend because he's divorced, and that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, taking the mask off was great. I honestly think it was a lot of like, I think my sister had suggested it. I think that there was sort of a like, hey, I think you can. And there was also a wave at that time, like Jimmy Fallon was getting popular, and there was sort of a wave of like, be you, right? Like you can just be silly and you. And it felt like the right wave to ride. And I'm glad I did. It all seemed to fit in where it needed to fit. And so when I went back to LA in 2018, I was now doing the show as Who's the Ross, and again, Tuesday night residency, and pretty quick got a Tuesday night at a club called El Cid on Sunset, and it was great. It felt like you were one step away from someone, and the guests were significantly bigger, right? You were getting people from television and film. You were getting, the hip hop artists we would get was like all this dream come true. Where I'm like performing with the Far Side on stage, getting people from Jurassic 5, like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. You're just like, and then the pandemic hit, and that was that for sort of that whole thing. I mean, we never performed regularly in LA again.
I had never, to me, the 2020 is so far gone, but so close. But I forget the experiences that a lot of folks had through it. I had not even thought about the reality of, like, because I remember, when you had gone and like seeing all, you're performing this, and then you got El Cid, and then you're up there. I remember seeing like the guests you were getting, like, holy smokes, like,
oh man, it was so cool.
This is great. And then just like that, it's gone. Well, I mean, how did you even transition from that?
Well, I think the dream died that day, but I'm persistent, right? So when talking about chasing the dream, I'm a never say die sort of person. So I'm stubborn, and I kept going. So we did an entire year of shows on Twitch, right? Sunday nights, not Tuesday, so little different, but felt the same. It was a great way to connect with community. You could still feel like we were able to do what we did before in a digital space. We really, like, you could connect with people. We would do games, people could answer in the chat, and it felt like what we were doing. It felt like close enough to what we were doing before. My mother was my co-host. The guests were bigger than what we were doing in LA, because we'd made the LA connections in a year and a half, but everyone's schedule was free, right? I mean, it was, if anything, it's the closest to doing a television show. I guess I did live out the dream, right? I did almost 1,000 shows. I made a living doing it for a decade plus. And then I made a television show, and it just happened to be on Twitch. And by the end, they looked like television shows. Like, we had all the graphics and the multiple cameras and the da-da-da, and the audio was great, and the guests were legit. We'd have writers from The Simpsons and actors from Reno 911 and those hip hop stars aforementioned, the drummer from the Flaming Lips, just those style of people. I was like, I got to do that. and you did a year. I went back to LA, to which is now I'm now on that stint, and we tried a few things. There would be like a couple gigs here. The best we had in closing it, to close this whole chapter of my talk show life, which lasted, golly, I mean, it lasted. I just said golly. It lasted 16 years. We were at the Alamo Theater, which is a sick theater chain that started in Austin, Texas, where they do a lot of like, they'll do new films, but they'll do old films. They'll do weird films. They'll do like they do with like The Room, you know, like the whole thing, what, you know, the Tommy Wiseau thing where they like people throw the spoons and do the whole like a happening thing sort of with the audience.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, that's, you know, that's my kind of space, right? A movie theater, we can go do our show where people want to come and have an experience and be a part of something. They don't want to just sit in the back. Now, LA is a lot less like Portland in wanting to be involved from an audience's perspective. They get a little more scared. So you have to be a little, hey, hi, nice to see. Hey, you know,
Yeah,
it's
not keep LA weird. You know, Portland, I think that's one thing I really love about Portland too, is that the audience was always willing to just go. There was no question
100%.
if someone was going to up there.
No hesitation. I mean, that like Portland is that to a T, and that's the best part of that city, you know. From we willing to drink the most bizarre thing that came down a zip line to putting on a inflatable frog suit to protest. Like that city, I love it. It's my heart. And the weirdness is the truth of it, right? Sometimes cities promote that, and it's like, that's not really true.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, I guess the Hollywood sheen of Hollywood is not LA. It is Hollywood specific. If you're like up in the hills, it'd feel that way. But Portland is that thing all over the city, right?
Right.
Like we are as advertised. I love that about the city.
Well, it's one of those things too. Is I think the keep Portland weird thing gets really thrown out of context, or people use it to make something seem just really far gone, you know. But to me, the keep Portland weird is keep the openness of it, right? Is keep the willingness, keep the lack of, not inhibitions, but not having your insecurities right out in front of you, but letting that go, you know, and being just your authentic self. That's
it is. It is definitely at its core the like welcome, like come here, be yourself, let the freak flag fly, and
right.
And I love that about it. I absolutely adore it, and every time I visit from LA, it's like more apparent of like, oh, how lovely is this place? You know, like how easy living, how I think the people are very open in meeting them, and yeah, all the weird stuff's outstanding. It's the best. Like, and I never, you know, like I always present normcore, but then when people like we do these interviews, or I run into fans when I come into Portland. We were talking about this before we got on air about people running into you and saying, "Hey, I came to your show, you know, 15 years ago, and you did da da da. You know, you were throwing the suction cup dildo on the ceiling, or you did this, you know, beer down the zip line, or you know, you were out in the middle of Burnside, you know, doing this race with people, you know, like in, you know what I mean, like in you know, farm animal costumes, like this. The ideas of those, I'll be like, man, I've completely forgotten that. Like that's, you know, like so. Anyways, yeah, I love that space. To the sort of cap on the talk show journey, we had done this Alamo Theater. We did monthly shows there for like, I don't know, 9 months. And again, it was the progression up, right? So we're talking about chasing the dream. And I've sort of regaled of the guests improving from local jobs to, you know, like significant people you'd see in TV and film and own their albums. All of a sudden, man, it was like directors of films that were big, like people that I had not thought I could interview, right? So like Tamara Davis, the director of Billy Madison Half Baked, was like, whoa, mind blow, right? Like the most formative dumb comedies from being a kid, and here's this person, you know. And then you get to learn, like, she directed Eazy-E's music video. Like you're just like, whoa, you're fascinating, right? She's married to Mike D of the Beastie Boys, da 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 da. Like everything about you, I want to know, right? So sitting with that person, fantastic. I got to interview the Oscar-nominated costume designer from Everything Everywhere All at Once, and like some of her crew members. That was really amazing. The Bugs Bunny from the '90s, Billy West was super fun. with the director of Jason Goes to Hell. It just felt like, oh man, we're right there, right? I'd mentioned before the El Cid thing and feeling a step away. Like it felt even closer with the Alamo, and then they just didn't renew us. And I think we'd been almost too ambitious for what they wanted, right? They wanted something like Bingo, and I was like, no, like play this movie and I'll get the director. And it sounds easy. I mean, costs you, I think, little. I don't know. I mean, maybe it costs, I guess you need movie licensing, but I always thought I'm doing you a favor. And I think they were like, yeah, no, nice try, and that's a Hollywood side that, like, man, the amount of rejection you're going to get over time is massive. We'd always had our ambitions harbored by the Dante space, right? The Portland stuff was like hands off, just do. If you think you can do it, do it. And the only thing I never got to do was have a band perform on the roof of Dante's. I wanted to do that Beatles wise, but I was getting to it. I was like right there. And I mean, we threw pumpkins off there for Halloween. We did Smashing Pumpkins, literally. So our dreams seen through in the dumbest sense. And yeah, so that ended. And then I just thought, you're 16 years in, and I was like, I don't know where else I can go and keep trying it at this level. Like I would take the Tonight Show in a heartbeat now. I genuinely believe I can do it. But it was like, okay, maybe there's a different path to all this. Because at the end of the day, it's about making art and connecting with people. And if you can't, and yeah, in the dream sense, you'd like to do it as grand as possible. Not for money. Trust me, that's never been a big goal. Clearly, I don't live that way. But yeah, it was what I pivoted into film work, which was always part of being here. Like I wasn't just sitting always like, oh, what's the next talk show? It was like you're doing that and then you're auditioning. You're doing that and you're writing stuff. You're doing the talk show and you're, I don't know, filming comedy bits, man on the street style. It was always like, what? I just want to do it around the clock. And I got also, it was like when you've almost hit 1,000 shows, you're like, maybe there's something I can do that's not on a loop like that. Like maybe I can get out of the loop. Maybe I could make something that takes a year. Maybe I could make something with more significance. And that's where I looked at like, I'll write things and act in them and let's see what happens. And that's essentially what the past couple of years has been.
It's awesome. And to be able to express yourself in written form and then perform it, is there, and when you write, do you write thinking, okay, this is how this is going to play out in real time? Or is it you write something, look at it and say, okay, this is how to move into it? Like when I write a recipe, right? So if I'm cooking, I'm going to gather my ingredients first and I'm just going to start cooking. And then I'll go back later and write the recipe down instead of writing the recipe and then performing the action of cooking. I guess is the question.
That's a really good question. And I think that's a good analogy to what it's like. In the grand scheme of things in writing for film, that recipe is going to get changed a lot, right? So you're like, I want to make a casserole. That's a crappy dish. Is that a bad example of a thing? For whatever.
Some people would raise their nose at it, but they're wrong.
And a great chef makes all dishes great, right? So like the basic comfort foods, a great chef knows how to put the spin on. And so casserole, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to do that. I know what what are my basics? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, how am I going to make it unique? Okay, I'm going to put these ingredients in that maybe 2 ingredients that are more unique. How am I going to spice it? How am I going to spice it? Like what's my cooking for it? And I'm saying all this not knowing how casseroles are even made. I assume they're baked. I'm not even sure what they are. I think they're just layers of stuff. Wonderful. Well, that's 100%. Just the actor. I shouldn't have called myself out for being like, I don't know what a casserole is. It's speak confidently and keep moving forward. So right, that's the casserole analogy. But you're going to cook it and make it and go. You're right. You're going to perfect that recipe. I mean, how often have you made a recipe and off the first time you cooked it, was it exactly what you wanted?
Oh, 100% of the time.
100% of the time, it's the thing. No, you absolute genius. But seriously, what do you honestly think? I'm curious. What do you think the percentage is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I as far as making something for the first time and executing it as envisioned, zero. I don't think I've ever actually executed something exactly the way I wanted to. I mean,
I
spring,
think that this
what I do now out in the wilderness is I get to make the same food over and over again every week for 6 weeks straight. And some people would get like really bored with that. But for me, it's constantly crafting and tweaking and changing to figure out exactly what that looks like. So yeah, there's not really been a whole lot of times where I've actually made something and been like, boom, done. I'm writing that down and it's got to be perfect.
well, I think that that 6 week thing I think is similar to screenwriting, where you're gonna like keep chipping it away at it. So first you write it. Say you write 10 pages today, and then I'm gonna read it tomorrow, and I'm gonna say some of the dialogue out loud. I'm gonna think more about the characters, and not every line's gonna hit, right? Like there's just things that like you wrote it that way, and you're like, that's not how someone would say it. That's not how they would say it. Then you do that, and then you build it out more, and then you go back to the front end and then read through now what's 20 pages, right? And you're like, but I wrote the next 10. The beginning stuff doesn't make as much sense, or the thing I wrote over here I got to justify more and go over there, and like that process keeps going. You get revisions from friends that are going to read it and collaborators. I watched Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade the other day. I mean, I love the original trilogy of Indiana Jones films, but it was like I was doing it as a research thing of like, I liked how they did adventure. I like how they did this journey thing. And the idea of father and son. I was like, let me watch that and just sort of glean what I can from that as I go back and write. And I went on Wikipedia after watching the film because I was like, I'm curious about the locations they were at and the screenwriting process. Really cool that they have, notes and details about the production of that film. And they tried to write that screenplay for, 5 years. And the amount of different hooks they were going that weren't Holy Grail at first, that were bizarre, like the Monkey King or something like that. I mean, I don't even know what any of that means. I just know that they clearly didn't do it. And, and then bringing in the father later and building out the father and then Sean Connery built out so much of the father role.
Yeah.
And then one of the best lines that he improvised, they're supposed to reveal late in the film that he has also slept with the love interest that Indiana Jones has slept with. The dad sleeps with her first. And I think he says, what does he do? He does, she talks in her sleep. I think he says that line, right? And that was early when he and Indy connect, right? When Indiana Jones is saving him. Anyways, the point is that's an ad lib line. He made that up.
Really?
And it says a lot, right? It's just so anyways, in the screenwriting process, right? Like even then the actors get their zhuzh on it. I mean, the actors tend to get the most zhuzh in between the lines. On a technical sense, you tend to not change a lot of lines. But man, where you put meaning and where you put background and what you can do, that's the job of the actor. But they can make some pretty great decisions. I know Benicio del Toro just did that with one battle after another. So the point is, it is a long process. And you have to be open to that long process. Like you for sure can't. I wrote something this past weekend and I finished a short film and I had a character I wrote in that was 2 pages. And then I kept writing and got to the end and I was like, I don't think we need him for this. Maybe in the full length version, maybe if this was 100 pages, but for the 15 pages, we don't need him. I think of in Hollywood, my objective now is write a short, make it with the intent to have something behind it that you can make like a full length film. I don't know if it's the easiest way. It's a minute possibility of getting something made. And I just think, look, I can make shorts. I can't make full lengths, but if I end up with a bunch of shorts I love, it doesn't matter where they went as long as I believe in them and put my best foot forward. So, and that's a big process too, right? That's again, back to the, like, you make just the short. If someone sees it that says, hey, what do you have behind that? Can you make a full length? Then there's a whole writing process that goes with that. And I love it. It's exciting. I mean, I also love writing as an actor because I get to sit after putting the lines down and say them out loud and try all the characters and think about them. It's really fun. It's really, really fun to nerd out, about that.
It's so awesome. I absolutely love that. I have never ever heard. I've never looked into. I've never thought about the screenwriting process or what goes into it. I just assumed that you just wrote a bunch of stuff down and now you read it and you'd make the stuff happen. Uh, and so to hear it in that voice, but not only that, but with like the excitement that you say, and I think that a lot of like,
Mm.
we say so much with our facial expressions, and you're one of those folks that has really great mannerisms, and you express yourself so well through your facial expressions. Like watching you explain this and seeing your process as you're saying it, like you could tell how much you care about what you do and how exciting it is for you. I love that. And again, I can relate this all to cooking. It's so crazy as I always thought cooking we were so special, but now I don't feel so like alone in the special world. I feel
Well, but
like
I
this
think
is
because they're I always feel akin to you as the chef. I mean, the art, the you are an artist, like period. I that's the truth. It may sound of pretension, but I'm sure you're like, I am. I mean, you to me are no different than the painter or the filmmaker or the comedian or the actor or the writer or the poet. It's all the same. It's art. I mean, and I think that it's the art form that people don't say it often enough of what it is. But the beauty of cuisine and is it's the art that we can all get down with, like that is like I think gives the greatest pleasure to all of us.
mm,
And also like we we do everything around food. And if there's something special within the food, whether it's at a date or a family gathering or a business meeting, it's going to enhance that space. Yeah, I mean, you really do that, and I mean, I say it with no pretension. That's really true. So like you are the artist as much as anybody else.
well, thank you. I do. Chefs out there, if you're listening, say thank you and accept that because I think that's one of those things is like it's hard to chefs we got the tattoos and we got the knives and we're tough we
Well,
play with fire
yeah.
like I'm not an artist I'm a creator but no you're exactly right like we really are. And I love the way you just talked about food because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier today about why I love food and it's the last connector, right? That's the last time that we really sit down, we're quiet, and you communicate. And there's tons and tons of stories about, like even go back, one of the biggest ones, World War II, and they stopped the battle on Christmas Eve to share a meal, right?
Mm.
And then the next day they went back to slaughtering each other. The food is that thing. And so
And after those battles,
hard.
like what else were they looking for other than a meal?
Yeah,
And if there
exactly.
was anything significant in that meal, past the gruel you were sort of getting, like what did it mean to you? Like what
Hmm.
what did it mean to get out of the trenches and have any food, let alone like what if someone made it? What if it was on a plate with like multiple things? Like you would cry. You would cry. It means that much, and it's not sustenance. If you can get sustenance, fine. But
Right.
food means so much, and it transforms like where you go when you get to eat something that someone has really put a lot of thought into. And look, I'm a presentation nut. I'm not the greatest chef in the world, but I can get some serious points on a date by like presenting a plate well. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like
100%.
just whether it's like a little fruit for color at breakfast. Do you know what I'm saying? Like where the toast is placed in relation to the hash browns, like how the eggs are placed around that. And look, idiots, as a fellow idiot, have green onion in your fridge. Game
Yep.
changer for everything. Look, the taste you can put with so many things, but if you sprinkle it on top of your pasta or your eggs or whatever, all of a sudden it makes it look like you know what you're doing.
Yep. Next level. Next level. I struggle with the plating aspect. I put all my love into the flavor. Gregor, in fact, our friend Gregory used to make fun of me. He would give me a hard time. He said, Andrew, you make really good food. It tastes really good, but why is it so brown? Why is it all so brown?
That's so funny. Well, you'd crush in England.
Yeah, I'd kill it. Go back home to Wales, and people would love it.
Oh my God.
And so I try now to be more intentional with plating, and and I'm trying to compete with trying to follow along with someone like Gigi, who just absolutely creates these amazingly flavorful dishes, and then these really artistic dishes. But anyway, enough about food. I could talk about food. You turn this around on me.
I wanted to run into something. It's not good technique to backtrack far, but you said something that was very sweet about my mannerisms when you could tell like something's really important to me. And actually, I just put that in a current script because as much as I played these big outlandish wild characters, and I'm still always trying to find truth in them. The thing I've really been trying to do now is just be myself. And I know that sounds like a postcard or you know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds almost corny to say. That's fine. I can be corny. Part of getting old is being okay with being corny. But if I'm writing something where I want to be in the script, like I literally was writing something where the film is about a guy that broadcasts a radio station for extraterrestrials. He essentially believes that like the way I can connect with people in space is music, right? And it's based on a true story, a short film I saw, a documentary short. And the guy was nothing like me in the thing, but I was inspired by his idea of he was alone. He was in a rural space. He didn't have parents growing up. He just had his grandparents, and he looked to space and he found connection. That alone was like tugged at my heart. But the idea that he would send music out was quirky, right? Like, oh, I assumed it would be some beeping, right? Some
like
sort
Morse
of
code.
Right, a message like that, or you're just saying the message or whatever it is, that to connect with the aliens. But he had this eclectic music taste that didn't match the small Michigan town he was in. It was like fascinating. And I love music. I love a diverse amount of music. I'm always like, give me more, give me new. Anyways, to that, I was like, oh, I want to. At first, when I looked at the guy, there was the idea of, can you mimic him? Can you mimic the long hair bearded guy who's quiet and quirky? And what do you do with what are the oddities that make him or make him not connect with human beings? And I was like, well, I don't need that. I don't need to go and do all that, right? We can all feel what loneliness is, and you can definitely feel what being not connected to your space is. Well, that's easy, to be honest. And I was like, in being this guy DJing to space, just be you. Just the way I was talking about stuff earlier. I was like, just be stoked to play these records for aliens, just like, I know that's all odd, but like, just be this that I'm being right now. And I was like, yeah, that's what's easy, I think, right? Because it's just me. And I think it's more fascinating. And so I was like, I'm sort of trying to put my passion and heart and humanity into the work that I'm doing now. So when you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, cool. That seems like a good stamp of approval to where I'm literally writing and creatively trying to go now, is like kind of be this version of myself inside the space of someone else's story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I love that. And having that perspective and being able to, express it. I think that a lot of folks really struggle with the expression of their feelings or their emotions, to be able to like put that into a true context that you not only feel but also understand is huge. So
it's fun to get to do. I mean, it's fun to get to be yourself when you're okay with being yourself,
oh yeah, and that's got to be hard, because it is, and again, like, I really love the removing of the mask. Like, I think that for myself, when I really accepted who I was and who I wanted to be in this world, when I stopped wearing that mask, when I really gave my authentic self to the world, the reception that I received was insane. Because I think that we get so caught up in what we think people want us to be that we don't really embrace who we truly are.
Yeah, and there is no you and there is no me when you're allowing yourself to really be that. Like, as normcore as I can appear and as white bread, like, there isn't another this. And if you really lean into that and you don't lean to the things that try to assimilate you more, then, not that assimilation's bad, right? Like, you can't live in a world as a spinning top that's gonna, but like, when you can just be it and be okay with whatever that is, I think it goes a long way. Yeah, I think people do really connect with it. And man, talk about like in chasing the dream, a bizarre journey that that only comes with time. Like now, as both, do we even say? I can't say how old I am because I live in
No, I
Hollywood,
just
so I can't.
pretend that people should know that I'm in my 30s still.
Totally, they don't have to pretend for me. Why would you have to pretend? Anyways, so yeah, now I'm losing the point. My coffee's wearing off. That's okay. The point was there, and that's my only
We made
dropped
it.
ball of the game. You know, you're gonna
Yeah.
drop some balls,
No. It happens. It happens.
and that's
It
part of being
happens.
your authentic self. Is saying, "Hey, nothing profound or funny came from that moment." So
Yeah, but you know what it is?
that's me. Yeah,
It's 100% relatable and people connecting, right? And
yeah.
that's
Just don't
why.
do it too much because then you're just boring. So let's.
Yeah, then yeah, you gotta.
Now it's me, the talk show side, going, "Hold on a second. Yeah.
Wait.
You could drop the ball once, make a joke out of it, and move on."
All right. I am so grateful that you made the time to sit down and talk to me today.
Thank you so much.
As I've said, I will continue to gloat over you and the way that you've continued to inspire me in my own world.
Thanks,
as
man. That's
as
very
a
nice.
peer and a friend. I have. This is a very important question.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask it for a really long time.
Oh,
Over the last 50 years, who is your favorite animated character?
oh man, that's such a good question. Oh, I want to. My favorite animated character. Well, you know, because I was watching it last night, and like seasons 4 through 7 of The Simpsons are undefeated. And I've had the incredible luxury of interviewing several writers from that era, and they are fascinating. And so I'll say Homer Simpson because I was watching season 4 episodes last night, stealing my friend's Disney Plus account, right? I literally don't pay for any of my accounts. Oh, we can all relate to that, right? I have like 7 different of those things, but they're all like family and friends and stuff, which I feel like as an artist, you're supposed to, which I know it's counterintuitive. It's like, well, you're not going to pay for the art. You're the artist. Like, yeah, I'm not paying the mouse $12.99. I don't think the mouse needs
Socrates
my
wasn't subscribing to Plato's Substack.
Hey, that's good. Did you just come up with that?
Off the top.
Whoa, that's really good. That's hold on, let me get a pen to steal that.
Yeah, write that one down.
Would you say Socrates wasn't subscribing to Plato's Substack? That is so funny. You know, as having been around us and like of all of us writing the show for a long time, that when someone says, especially a comic writer says, that is so funny, that like that you did it. They don't laugh. They just go like with this excited jealousy. Yeah, Homer.
Homer.
Speaking of Socrates and Plato,
that's what got it there. That's what got me there.
Wow,
see, this is a weed thing.
Wow, good weave. Good. Word association has always been my favorite part of being an improviser. So my warm up, I'll warm up by just talking to myself and think the next thing, right? Anyways, yeah, Homer's my fave because those man, I laughed out loud in an episode like 6 times around Homer. Like I've seen those episodes a lot. They're almost 30 years old, right? What I was watching or is 30 years old. There are many greats I'd like to say. Bugs is right, the pioneer, and like I'm honored to have met multiple Bugs voices, and Beavis and Butthead still crushes me, and animation's important, so thanks for asking it. But yeah, that's Homer's. That's I mean, you can make a guy laugh out loud at midnight by sitting by himself. Like I feel like you've done something, especially when you've already seen it. You like know the joke, but you're like it's so witty it hits you in the core. What's your favorite cartoon?
Ooh.
And where did this question come from? How at the close of an hour is there? Where does this come? I got to know before you even say the cartoon. Where does the genesis of that come? Was the objective purely random to spark? I got to know. As a talk show host, now I'm the most fascinated by that question.
Yeah, everybody asks like, what's your favorite film? Tell me about how you think that Citizen Kane is the greatest movie ever created. Like, everybody talks about that, right? But no one talks about the things that make us silly, right? And for me, animation is silly. And that's where I find the most freedom in myself is just being goofy and silly, right? And so when I see something, and Homer's that's a fantastic answer because he's this super relatable person
Right.
that is somehow animated, so we can almost check off our the silly notion of, oh, I'm not like Homer because he's animated. But in reality, like you said, it hits that spot where it's like, man, I am Homer.
I know, and I think it's the things that made me laugh is like when he answers something in relation, like there's always that joke with Homer, like my lifelong dream was to do da da da, and it's like, Marge will say your lifelong dream was to run naked across the baseball field, and you did it last summer, and then they show like the newspaper headline on like idiot ruins game, like those things. First of all, it's the succession of jokes that gets me going to the newspaper that's on the wall, idiot ruins game, the picture of Homer. But it's like it's like those relatable things in us of like what the dumb places where our joy can be, or like, you know what I mean, or the familiarity between spouses in that moment that gets me, and timing too. Their timing's impeccable.
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
what can you think what cartoon is your favorite, or even just tell me what was like a show that was significant for you growing, because they are like, to our generation, cartoons were the babysitters for starters, and then we were the generation where adult cartoons started coming into, like teenage and adult cartoons, so we're almost like weaned on cartoons. Where if you live in Hollywood too, there are a lot of people that have like absurd cartoon figurine collections because they were like raised on this sort of like DuckTales, Transformers, and then they got like Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead, and then now they have the Bob's Burgers, and their like entire life, and then BoJack Horseman, where like if you go to their house, their whole ethos, their whole thing is animation. It's a weird part of our generation.
It really is. Oh man. The first question, my favorite animated character is Wile E. Coyote.
That's a great one.
And this is growing up an only kid, only child in a single mother household, and like Wile E. Coyote was always this thing. It was like, look at this idiot. He's gonna go try to do this thing again, and it's gonna happen, and he's gonna lose. But every time he shows up every single day.
Oh wow, you found inspiration out of Wile E. Coyote.
I really did. And I didn't realize that. Like, I say that now as if I was this 10-year-old kid thinking, wow, Wiley shows up every day and succeeds but fails. But no, I realize that now. But I was always drawn to him because I thought it was hilarious that he's like trying to blow up this stupid bird that keeps outwitting him. But he keeps showing up. And you look at it now and it's like, oh, wow, that's a really inspiring thing. But like,
I appreciate that take on him.
Yeah, I think it was good. My favorite cartoon growing up, this is going to be a shocker to most people, but it was G.I. Joe.
You are built like a G.I. Joe. So
thank you.
I assume you're being facetious. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. Like I had every G.I. Joe figurine. I lived on a farm, so I had actually built an entire G.I. Joe battlefield. Like I had a river, and there was Cobra on one side and Joe's on the other, and I would go out after watching and replay the cartoon that I had just watched. I would go out and replay it in the yard by myself. Because again, only child, big problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, G.I. Joe was really.
Do you? I mean, knowing you were in the military, like, is there a super direct correlation? I mean, was essentially G.I. Joe the perfect propaganda for an '80s kid to end up enlisting?
I had never considered it, but I would definitely say yes now.
I mean, if on the outside it seems like kind of obvious, it's like, boy, did they got you, buddy.
Yeah, they got him. No, because I was an athlete that was supposed to go to college and play sports and got in trouble.
Did you run? Because now if you were a runner, Wile E. Coyote would have.
That would
be like, I was this great track star, but I ended up going into the military. It's like, whoa, dude, cartoons really shaped your life.
Wow, this guy got it figured out. Yeah, no.
And you still have that nemesis bird. Is his head on the wall behind you? Oh, that's a deer.
That's a deer. That's a deer. Yeah. No, I haven't gotten a bird yet. I don't have any birds. Maybe someday. But yeah,
because that's your white whale. Is that damn bird?
It's that damn bird.
But seriously, so do you think there's a connection to enlisting through GI? Like, it's part of your childhood. You're playing war.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a connection there. I do see that as this was, well, you know what makes sense? You know what people love? And I've always been a people pleaser. I always want to, do the best. I want to help the most people. I want to,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
want
and
people
that's
to
true. You
tell,
and I both, for sure.
So I think that it was just a natural calling when the other things that I thought I was supposed to have didn't happen because my own things. But uh yeah, it was the most like instantaneous things. Like I knew exactly what I was doing as soon as I knew that the sports were off the table.
Wow.
And so yeah. Yeah.
Well,
And I
Trip,
think
Trip, we
those
unlocked
cartoons were great.
something.
And I think that thinking about how the progression, man, we have experienced this really cool arc of animation in our lives. You're right. Um,
Seriously,
I
it
hadn't
was
really
a,
thought
and
about
I hadn't
those.
thought about it until now. I know you. Good work, my friend. You now are the master.
Yeah.
You now are the
Yes.
master talk show host in a
Yes.
world of
I waxed
podcasts.
on, waxed off. Like I feel like you're Mr. Miyagi. I'm Daniel. Like passing. Oh, we're not going to pass the torch. I'm not ready for that kind of responsibility. But Aaron, thank
Eh,
you. I
You're
tell you,
so
man,
welcome.
this has been absolutely one of my favorite conversations. I knew
Oh,
it
thanks,
would be.
buddy.
And we didn't even scratch the surface on some of the philanthropy that you do. And we'll come back to that at a later time because I think that it's important that people not only understand the art that you put into the world, but also the heart that you have
Oh,
to
thank you.
help others. And
Well, we'll talk. Let's
yeah, we'll
talk
do it again.
before the holidays. This year, and we can dive into the work we're doing for Dornbecker Children's Hospital.
Heck yeah, dude!
We'll
I
leave it
love
as a
it.
teaser.
Oh yeah, we do like those. So where can people follow along with you? I'm going to put it on the show notes as well and links and everything else. Uh, where can people follow along and see what you're up to and how things are going and possibly see you at a live show maybe in the future or live shows are done?
Yeah,
Like,
live show or film or whatever it's going to be. All the social media handles for me are Who's the Ross. That's WHOSTHEROSS. Like Who's the Boss, but with a Ross at the end. That's me, Aaron Ross, comedy boss. Who's the Ross? So, Instagram and TikTok. I am on a little break from that, but that won't matter in the grand scheme of things. You can look back at the last few years of stupidity and travels and art that are exhibited on social media. My website, who'stheross.com, which can then link you to like YouTube and hopefully that'll be a space where you'll get to see some short films that are coming out. And that, like I said, that's the focus, is not being a daily. And I'm trying to step out of the TikToking space where you're constantly on a loop. All things loop. I'm out. I'm completely out. Peace.
yes.
And just trying to make things that feel like they count to me and hopefully other people. So yes, that's a long-winded thing to check that out. And hopefully you don't have to come find me. I'll find you. That's the goal of the art, right? I think at
Oh,
this
yeah.
point,
Okay.
don't find me. I'll find you.
Brilliant.
Whatever it is,
Aaron,
the art's coming your way. So thanks, man.
thank you so much, brother. Have a fantastic week and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
That's it for this episode of Here From Where. Thanks for tuning in, and if you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. A huge thanks to Justin Podolesky for the music and sound production, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep moving forward. All the best, and happy cooking.